Hello everybody, welcome to another fun look at things that sold on eBay, what sold well, what didn't sell, and what the reasons might be. I put 20 items on every month. I obviously do more than that in certain times, but I always do at least one flight of 20 items because this is something that goes out first to my level 2 and level 3 members as their early access bonus. And I'm very grateful for their support because it lets me take the time to do this extra video. It's actually fairly time consuming because not only do I have to get the items ready for eBay like you would in a normal way, but I need to do the research in advance so that I can talk about the items. And then they drop live while the video is playing. The people with the early access get to watch the pieces drop live, and they can go right to the listing and follow it and buy things if they like. We roll it out to everyone a few days later. If you're interested in being a member, by the way, you can click the join button or look for the membership link in the description. So let's take a look at what sold in November. I was really pleased with November sales. Let's get to that here, and we'll toggle in here. I was really pleased with November sales because I sold 18 out of 20 items, and I did it before Black Friday. I did not wait for Black Friday to end my listings. I actually ended them on Thanksgiving. And people said, oh, you're nuts. Everyone will be distracted. No one will see them. Well, you know what? The people who love this stuff, they're out there, and they're out there pretty much most of the time looking for these things. So I was not concerned. And one of the first things that I was really excited about was to see how this did. I actually got an email from somebody who said, oh, I bet I know who you got that from. These are hard to find. I bet they got it at the estate. And that is actually true. And so it was fun to be able to bring this to the market. Now, if you saw this at an estate sale, would you even think to pick it up? It is a little styrofoam planter. And yes, I did show all the pictures because I wanted to show that it had a little bit of soiling because it sat in somebody's garden potting shed for some period of time. What is overlooked by most people looking at something like this is the Sasha Brastoff mark. And that's what makes this special. And they are really hard to find because think about it. How many people didn't just use this thing, crack it, break it, dirty it up, and throw it away? And they didn't make these for very long either because he got into his enamelware phase and started doing that instead. So the styrofoam is a really hard line to find from about 1965. And the person who sent me the email, I think, is the person who ended up getting it. And they paid $104.07, kind of an odd amount, but it was an open bid and there were 6 bids. So you'll never look at styrofoam the same, and neither will I. The first item that sold, though, was this. This, of course, is a transformer. This one is the Autobot, and it is the Sunstreaker Warrior. Transformers were a big deal when they came out. They were also kind of controversial, and they came out pretty much simultaneously in Japan, Canada, and the US, and there are different versions of each of those for each of those markets. The Canadian one actually is a little harder to find and sells for a little more than the American, and the Japanese sells for a little bit more as well. This one's American, it's by Hasbro. Hasbro was the American company that partnered with the Japanese company that had already come up with the Transformer concept a few years before. But this was right when things changed in the United States. The deregulation of advertising to children happened in 1984. And so suddenly, instead of having merchandise based on an existing cartoon, this was the first time that a cartoon was put out specifically to advertise and promote the merchandise. The merchandise was really cool, and so kids loved it, of course. I'm certain if I had been young enough, I would have wanted these very, very badly because the idea of something that's a car and turns into a robot, I mean, how cool is that? So I certainly understand what the motivation of the collectors is, and people that age definitely are into this stuff now, and it is very popular. I put this out at a bid or buy it now. I put the buy it now at $50 because that seemed to be about what these were going for, and somebody bought it right away. If you had the Canadian version, it would go for about 50% more. Amy at Yoso Boho actually gave me these to sell. And I had hoped it would go higher because I had planned to split with her if we got a lot of money. But I was happy that it did sell. It went for $15 plus shipping. And these are pretty heavy. And it actually took a lot of room to ship. So the customer paid probably in the $30 range by the time it was all said and done. And that is about retail on these. So we didn't get the full amount because we had to share it with the post office. The shipping has gone up a little bit, but it is Hull, and it is the cedar green version, or actually I think they call it green agate was their name for this. It's the drip glaze. They did several different colors. This is one of the deeper and richer colors. You can see also it's pretty scratched on the tray, and I wanted to represent that fairly, and I did mention it in the description, so that may have kept back the bidding as well. But it did still sell, and it did get 7 bids. I only started it at $9.99 because I thought, who knows? And so it's called Home and Garden. That's the official name of this Hull drip glaze, and it came in about 6 different colors. So a fun thing to collect. The TV tray with the little soup mug is a harder piece to find. So it went to a good home, and we were happy about that. The next piece here is a Juliana pin. Now, Juliana is made by Deliza Elster, and Juliana was one of their trade names in the 1960s. They produced for a lot of different companies, and they produced under several of their own names. Usually they just had paper tags and were ripped off, so you have to know the construction. But I could tell, first of all, the sculpted metal is a clue. Other companies did that too, but the fact that there's some extra work that's gone into it and it's stacked a little more deeply, that definitely is a clue. But the real clue on this one is in the back, where you see these rivets. Juliana used a very specific kind of rivet that you can see here with the circle around the rivet. And as soon as I saw that, I knew we had a Juliana piece, and so was able to advertise it as such. And that makes a big difference. You don't want to misrepresent things, but it was represented correctly. And because of that, it went for $63. And that was pretty great because I had sold a similar wreath pin in green by LaRocco last month, and it went for $39. LaRocco's a good company too, but Juliana definitely has cachet. And the other thing about it is it's essentially a Christmas wreath. I'm sure that this was done for one of their holiday collections in the 1960s, so the timing could not have been better, and the person was very concerned that they would get it in time to be able to wear it for the holidays. The buyer for this is a viewer, and she lives in Canada, so we made sure we got it out right away so that she can enjoy it. I figured that this would sell for some price, and it did. These used to be considered very scarce and were listed in the old CocaCola guidebooks at very high prices. But time has gone on, and of course, as soon as somebody figured out they were scarce, a lot of people went running to old scrapbooks, and they started finding more of them, so they're not as scarce as they were when that reference book was written, 30 years ago. This one was torn and rebound, and you can see that. It also has a hole punched in it. We represented all of that in the listing. And because of that, it was at a start price of $19.99. It ended up getting 2 bids and sold for $20.50. If you notice the logos and everything, this is early. There's lots of free Coke advertising cards and things like this, but this one is from about 1910, and it entitles you to 1 glass of Coca-Cola for free. The idea was that they were going to get you, notice it says the fountain of any dispenser of genuine Coca-Cola. So what they were trying to do is get you to go in, give this for a free glass, then they would present it to the bottling company and Coke would pay them for it. It was a way to get people in to try Coke. It's hard to imagine that you had to get people to try Coca-Cola. But in 1910, it was still a fairly new product, and this was very effective at that. The later ones only go for about $5 or $7, so I thought $20 was just fine. Now, this next piece I thought was just fun. It's 1990s. It looks very 90s. It's a line done by a Canadian woman, and it is known as swack, sealed with a kiss. I'll show you the mark on the bottom, and there is her signature. She is a ceramic artist from Vancouver. She's still working, but she hasn't done these women in the floppy hats for a long time. She actually is best known now for a character in a similarly animated way called Clancy the Cat. And with Clancy the Cat, you'll see some of these funky, fun backgrounds where there's lots of different design going. This is very emblematic of the type of studio art pottery that was starting to be made in the early 1990s, largely by women artists. And I think it's a lot of fun. She's having so much fun with those very gold glam glasses on, and doing the gold paint over everything is what turns this into an art piece rather than just a production piece. They're all hand painted. There's a lot of detail. So because of that, I feel like it's an up and coming area of collecting, and apparently I wasn't the only one because 3 people bid on it, and it went for $26 plus shipping, which I thought was pretty good because that's definitely a little towards the high side of what these are selling for now. I think that we're going to see more and more interest in this sort of ware as it slips farther and farther back in time because it's very emblematic of its age. This is a Siamese teak marked tray. You can see that it's pieced together in a laminate style. This is by Ernest Son, who is an American designer, but he did most of his he commissioned most of his designs to be made either abroad, like this. This was made in Thailand, back when it was still called Siam, or right shortly after. But it's got the Ernest Son designer name on it. He also had Hall China make pieces for him, so he was willing to go to anybody who made a good quality product. And you know, the Thais really do make good teak. And they fell into it shortly after the Danes started popularizing all the teak furniture, because there's a lot of teak in Thailand as well, so it just made sense that they would make their own furniture. There's certainly more teak in Thailand than there is in Denmark. So it was a natural fit, and this was a natural fit for somebody. It went for the $19 opening bid. I didn't really know what to expect. It's not a large piece. There's nothing super fancy about it, and it doesn't have a big name like Dansk. And so because of that, I thought $19 was a good place to start, and that's where it ended up finishing. This is very timely and seasonal. I didn't do a lot of Christmas stuff because it was before Thanksgiving, and I'm just sort of an old school guy about that, but I did think that I wanted to put this in because it can be worn as a piece of jewelry, and with the jewelry I thought, well, the holiday jewelry, let's get that out while people can have a chance to wear it and enjoy it before the holiday comes. Thought this was a particularly ornate piece. This was the second year of production. The fellow who designed these did a wonderful job, and this one was particularly ornate. You can see the Gorham Sterling Christmas 1971 label on there. I started it at a pretty low price, and it went up to $37.54, another odd number. But you know what? That is a pretty respectable price for these. It seems like about the range that they sell in. I was very satisfied with that, especially because if you noticed, I did not polish it. I didn't think the tarnish looked particularly bad, and I thought I'm going to let someone else decide how shiny they want to make this. Some people like a little tarnish in the recesses to give a piece more of a three-dimensional look. So one way you can get that, if you want some of the tarnish but you want it to be a little shinier, you can just take a polishing cloth and just touch the high points. You'll take enough of the tarnish off to give it a little bit more brightness, but you'll still leave some of the darkness that gives it the detail in the recesses. Of course, when these were new, they were shiny bright all over, and some people prefer that, and they can get into it and really polish it deeply. I do not like polishing, so I'm going to leave that to the buyer. This was a cute set, and actually it did as well as it possibly could, I thought. I think we started this at $9.99. There's a lot of 7 of these little leather libraries. They were a really cute, fun group. I think they did just over 100, and it's usually reprints of the classic. The print's pretty small. They have this sort of faux leather exterior. They're just very cute, and they have a lot of the great works of the past. You see there's Shakespeare, we've got Longfellow, we've got Edgar Allan Poe. This was at a time when people were really interested in becoming more literate and being more interested in literature. So the timing was great for these back in 1925 when they were being produced. In 1926, they stopped making these and they converted the whole company to the Book of the Month Club. So that is the origin of that. Somebody enjoyed these. They usually sell for $4 or $5 a piece. It went for $31 for the lot of 7. So that's pretty good because oftentimes when you sell things like this in lots, you don't necessarily get the price you would if you sold the pieces individually. So I was pretty happy, and there were 22 bids. There are a lot of people who collect this, and they know that none of them are rare or worth a fortune, but if they don't have them in their collection, they want them. So if you are a reseller, look for these little leather libraries. A lot of times they're very cheap at estate sales because they're just sort of forgotten on a bookshelf. Ah, yes, we had 2 different pieces of Lana Turner jewelry, and I'm going to show you this one first. These came from her estate. Her estate, her daughter, and you can see here, Lana Turner owned vintage yellow dangle earrings from her personal collection. Here's the signature of her daughter. These were sold, oh gosh, I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago after she passed. Lana Turner was a huge costume jewelry collector. It was just really fun to see them. I remember when they sold this estate online, and I remember thinking I really ought to buy some of these pieces, and I couldn't compete with the price at the time. And honestly, they sold for a bit more than they did when they sold out of the estate, because there's just a couple of them that I'm selling instead of an entire estate full. So these went for $44 on 5 bids, and I thought that was just great. This is the first of 2 of these. This is Policewoman, and this is a show from the 70s. Now, sometimes these pop for a bunch of money. I've seen these sell for as much as $50 and $75, so I decided to give it a try. I did not hit the market at the right time. They just went for about the opening bid of $9.99. I got them very inexpensively, so I don't have any heartburn about that. They were $2.49 originally. You can see the original label up in the corner there. From a long extinct, oh, yeah, that's Pay and Save. Yes, that's one of the companies that was acquired by the Trump organization and then bankrupted, unfortunately. So that is collectible in its own right. This piece is original. It's all there. It's never been opened. So the people who got this, the collectors, it was 2 different collectors, and they got a fun bunch of stuff for a good price. Franciscan apple, and this is a bowl in one of the most popular dinnerware lines that you could possibly imagine. Franciscan apple is all hand painted, it's embossed, it's got some texture, it's sculpted, and it was very popular in its time. So popular that there's a lot of these around, and typically they sell for about $10, $12 for the cereal bowl. However, this cereal bowl has a little secret on the bottom. It says, "I am Franciscan's apple pattern. Please fill me with crinkles." Crinkles came out around early 50s. The Franciscan logo there is the early 50s logo. And while Apple was really, really popular, nobody knew what Crinkles was. Well, Crinkles was Post's version of Rice Krispies. Post is always kind of looked at what Kellogg's is doing and then did their Me Too version of it. And Crinkles was their Me Too version of Rice Krispies. They needed to get it established, so they said, well, we'll have Franciscan make these bowls, and then you get a cereal bowl that reminds you to buy Crinkles. Well, I have collected and bought and sold Franciscan over many years. I haven't seen this piece before, and I thought, well, let's see how it does. Well, here's how it did. $62.37. I was very happy that this went so well because I really didn't know. And it's the kind of thing that, it's a very subtle distinction. A lot of people might look at the bottom of that and go, oh yeah, it's a Franciscan bowl, and not really pay attention to the back stamp. So there's a lesson for us all. Look at the bottoms of pieces, because you don't necessarily know just because you've seen a million of them. One is different than the other million. So this turned out to be a very happy thing, and the collector was very pleased to get it. Here's the other piece from the Lana Turner estate, and this one did very well. 27 bids, it went to $70. That was definitely more than it sold for when it sold out of the estate, but again, no competition because these are the only two pieces on eBay right now from the estate. And again, we have the information here, the photo of Lana Turner. Lana Turner, interestingly enough, those eyebrows are penciled in because she was asked to shave her eyebrows for a role in the early 50s. I wish I could remember the movie. And they never grew back. So she had to draw eyebrows on for the rest of her life. The back of it, you can see, is coming through because it must have gotten a little bit moist. But here again is the signature of the daughter. 2010, that's when the estate was selling. I see, there's the 10, yes. So carved wooden bangle. And I think, honestly, I hit it right when I took this picture here. I think having it up on its edge where you really see this neat brass detail, as I recall when this was originally sold, because I did look extensively at the pieces. A friend of mine was a big costume jewelry dealer at that time, and we looked at a lot of the Lana Turner pieces and then couldn't afford them. But this, I don't recall being shown where it had this detail that you could see, and that's what's fun about it. And when you wear it on your arm, you're going to see that. So that's something I have to remember for the future. If you're taking pictures of bangles and bracelets, you might want to shoot down. Good idea that I should employ, that I didn't in this case, is to get one of those jewelry stands for bracelets, and then you can put one on and take a picture of it that way. Here's the other policewoman. This is the Race Against Time. This one I didn't see high prices on. The other one was the one I had seen sell for big money. So I wasn't expecting this one to go as high. That's eBay for you. When you're doing auctions, you take the chance that you get the one person that is interested and there's no competition and they just get it. And that's what happened here. And you know what? Again, I got these very reasonably, and as much as, yes, we all want to make money if we're resellers, but we resell antiques and vintage because we're trying to keep this stuff out of landfills. We're trying to find people who really love it and will cherish it and collect it and want to keep it. And so, to me, as long as I'm making something, I'm good. And I made something, and the person who got this had it and is going to have a really fun time with it. This is another example of that. I frankly was very surprised that this didn't bid up higher. It's a beautiful piece of Stueben gold Orion, a big, beautiful piece. But I see a problem now that I did not notice in my picture. I'm sure when the people got the piece, they were thrilled because I didn't really pay attention to the fact that for some reason the light reflection makes that look really dark in there, like it has a stain. And it doesn't. I'm not really sure what happened there. And truthfully, I didn't really catch that. And I should have. I would have probably shot another picture. If you look on it from up high here, you see where you've got that really beautiful gold, and then it goes to a nice darker center. And that's a little bit more true to color. But in reality, it's really more like this. And again, it's got that illusion of darkness inside. So I guess what I've learned from this is that this gold Orion inside a bowl is really hard to photograph well. And so if I have a piece like this again, I will maybe shoot it in natural light. This is the base of it. The other thing is that this one, even though it is clearly Stueben and there's no mistaking it, this one did not have the Stueben signature. They didn't always. Sometimes they did. Sometimes they had a paper label. Such a beautiful piece, such a big piece. I mean, about this big around. So the person who got it was very happy because they got it for the starting bid of $95, which really surprised me. I honestly thought it would go for more. But you know what? I don't begrudge them because they had enough sense to buy a really beautiful piece at a good price. And that's how I felt when I bought it, so we both got to have that feeling. All right, let's see what's next. This little guy here, there were 2 bids on this. It's just a sweet little piece. It's just whimsical. It's Italian. It's from about, the early 70s. It's all hand-painted. the painting is childlike. It's not amateur, but it's not trying to be super sophisticated. Also, this is a big piece, a little bit weighty for shipping. And so I think that deterred the bidding a little bit. I thought maybe it would go higher. I will be honest with you, I got this for practically nothing. So what it went for, which was $12.50 plus shipping, which means the customer again paid about $30, which is what I really think that it is worth. So I think that, from the customer's perspective, they got a fine deal, but not the bargain it might seem. We have to be conscious when we're selling larger items and heavier things, especially with the holiday differential. The postal rates are higher right now, and because of those surcharges, we're looking at a situation where if something is big and heavy and isn't going to really pop for you, it may be better to wait until after the holidays to list it. But this is Santa Claus, so it had to go now. It went to a really lovely viewer who buys really good things, has a great eye, and has bought some very expensive things from me in the past. So to be honest with you, I felt like it was almost a thank you that she got it. And I'm glad that she got it for a good price, and I'm sure she's enjoying it. This, on the other hand, again, eBay is full of surprises. Some things go for a lot less than you think. Some things go for a lot more. This got 23 bids. It is a great design, and it is a great color, and you don't see this color that often. And it was in pretty good condition. There's a little bit of wear you can see, and I tried very hard to disclose that in my pictures. But the design, I mean, it just looks like George Jetson's space capsule flying through the air. And it's from about that time. I think this came out in 1963. So I was very, very pleased that it did so well. Part of the reason it did well is because it had all three of these attachments. So if you buy one of these, try to find this stirrer, this thing that muddles your drinks or whatever it's for, because that definitely helped push the price too. I was honestly thinking this might sell for half of this amount. So, you win some, you lose some, and you really have to look at the big picture when you're doing a lot of listings online, especially if you're doing auction. You just have to figure that it's all going to work out in the end. And this was really pleasing to me because I found it on the top shelf in a junk store where it had apparently languished for a really long time. It took a lot of cleaning to get it to look nice like this. So very happy that somebody liked it. Okay, let's show you two things that didn't sell and talk about why. This rookie card is Brian Trottier, who was one of the reasons the New York Islanders won 4 Stanley Cups in a row. And I thought because we're in NHL season now that maybe we would have a buyer and interest in this. I realized that a lot of my viewers are not necessarily sports buffs because 80% of my viewers are women who the majority are not expressing great interest in sports things when I bring them. But there are some who do, and I'm going to continue to do it. You'll see when I have my December video out, I have a sports item that is from a woman that I think might be very interesting to people. So in the meantime, as far as Brian Trottier goes, he was a great player. I may have made a mistake by putting the rookie card, the picture with the rookie card out first. I should have probably taken a picture of it outside of this. And then I think it might have done better. So, live and learn. It didn't sell. I had it listed at 45 with a buy it now of 59. That's actually on the low side of what this should sell for in the condition it's in. So I think that's on me for not taking a better picture. This one, I've got to say I don't understand it because it's just wonderful and everybody thought it was the coolest thing. I still think it's the coolest thing, and I have a hunch that it will sell the minute I get it out at the next show I do during my Florida show season starting in January. And that is this. This is the Royal Terry Placemat Set. Look how cute that is. Now, it's not clear who the company in Japan was that made the jam pot and the jelly pot, but just the whole setup with the box and the presentation and the fact that these two characters with these porcelain jam pot heads are dancing together and they're made up of napkins, and it's just so cute. And I think somebody's going to really love it. I've had these before and they've sold very quickly at shows, so that's where it'll go, since it didn't go online. Royal Terry of California was the company that made the pieces, and so they did not have the Japanese company sign it. The Japanese pieces are really good quality for 1950s. They're very fun. The color is good. They're very expressive. So it looks like something that could have been made by PY or possibly Devar, one of the competitors to Holt Howard. And I think they're just great. I was surprised because we started it at $49.99. Maybe that's just not a lucky number for me. I've noticed that everything I've started at $49.99 has not sold. So maybe I have to just do $50 and quit playing around with 99 cents. But those were the only two things that did not sell. The last thing, this is one of the first things that did sell. This went on to buy it now for $19. It is a lot of 30 concert tickets. Now, they're these sort of pre-printed ones, but what I loved about it is that the person who went to it wrote their impressions of the shows on it. And I think that just makes it so personal and so interesting in a way that usually I wouldn't think so much of these. There's some pretty good people in here too. I mean, you've got Janet Jackson, you've got Bobby Brown, who was supposed to be quite a performer, whether you thought much of him personally or not. Here's Prince, who's not with us anymore. Prince was a blast. I'm sure he was. He always came off that way whenever I saw him on television or his videos. I mean, so this person got to see some really cool stuff. And it's really neat that the whole collection got to be kept together. This came out of the New Orleans area, as you can see, and it went for 19. Right now, that's about the going rate for little groupings like this from this era. I do think that with time, some of these will end up being more valuable. Again, Prince is already gone, and some of these other folks, they won't be around forever, and there will be increased nostalgia at that time that they began to pass. So somebody got a good deal now and probably a great deal in the future, but I was very happy that we sold them. In general, I was pretty satisfied with this whole experience. I felt like this was a good month. Selling 90% of the items was great. I did start a lot of things at $9.99 this time, and I think that definitely, if you can do it, that definitely attracts more attention. I have a friend who sells very high-end Chinese art and artifacts. Some of the things he sells go for thousands of dollars. Every one of them he starts at $9.99 no reserve, and his attitude is, if I don't have confidence that this is going to go up to the value that it should, I don't buy it. And I thought, that's probably a good lesson there. I mean, I think a lot of us, we get buyitis and, oh, that's cute, and I know what it is, and I'm going to get it, and I'm in a thrift store, and it's cheap. But there's also, what are people really looking for? And if you're dealing in stuff people are really looking for, there's a reason that Jocelyn at Crazy Lamp Lady starts everything at $4. She knows that stuff's going to fly. And she's not worried that she's only going to get $4 for something because she buys good stuff that's going to sell. So that is an interesting lesson. I'm experimenting with that a little bit more myself with a lot of $9.99 starts. We'll do that again probably in December when we have another 20 items that we list on eBay. I actually set them aside already, and we will have a lot of fun with those too. So look for that video. Again, if you're a level 2 or level 3 member, you'll get a notification saying that it's coming out so that you have your early access. If you're not a level 2 or level 3 member, you'll get to see it eventually. And if the items are still available, you'll still be able to buy them. In the event that they've already sold, you'll at least be able to look and see what they sold for and get an idea of what the market is doing, which is a lot of the reason we do this too. So thanks so much for joining me, and we will have fun again doing this very soon. Bye for now. If you enjoyed this video, check out this one. Also, click thumbs up to like this video and check the description for information about our Patreon, our memberships. We've got a lot of different levels with different perks and bonus videos and early content. Also, please do check out our website, theantiquenomad.com, for appraisal help. And we'll see you again for more adventures in the antique and vintage community soon. Bye for now.